Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Camille. I've got them all locked down on mute, Camille, so they can't respond to you, but they can hear you, and we can see and hear you just fine.
That sounds great. Well, if anyone was wondering who has real control of this company, you can tell it's Jody. She can mute us all. But welcome everyone to the February staff meeting. My name is Camille Zender. I'm the Chief Executive Officer with PHS. There's maybe a few of you here I haven't had the chance to meet yet. If that's the case, let me welcome you to the PHS family. We have some fun topics to review today. I hope that you all have had the opportunity to review the recorded session of the meeting, and I thank you for the questions that have come forward for this early portion of the meeting, which is a Q&A opportunity. We do have some advanced questions that came through that we'll go through today, and I've identified a few lifelines I'm going to call on in order to help us out with that. But before we get into the Q&A, I was just checking my weather app, because if you live in Minnesota, that's what you do. You check the weather and you talk about the weather. And 3 of our office locations are under winter weather advisories right now. That may usually not surprise me, except I see that Dallas is included among them. So to everyone, I hope you're staying safe with the turbulent weather and continue to be healthy as we move through what hopefully are some of the last days of the pandemic, and understanding that access to the vaccine is occurring, and hope you're all able to take opportunity to get access to that, so that we can continue to work together to help each other and to help our kids and their families. So with the Q&A session, I invite you to add to it as we go if there are questions, and we'll do our best to get through all of them before we get to the 3:15 time clock. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. A question we received asks if we could have access to the org charts that Todd Erickson reviewed in the video. This is helpful just, of course, to get an understanding of where we all are and who does what. So great question. Thanks for bringing that forward. Jody has provided a PDF version of these slides to Sherry Nelson, is the person who posed the question. And then there's also the option to view the org chart at any time that you wish through the UltiPro application. So you can get to the organization chart through UltiPro by going to Menu, then Myself, then My Company, and then Organizational Chart. And you'll see all those boxes come into view. So you can access that at any time. And I'm just going to go through the questions that I intend to answer, and then I'll turn it over to one of the Lifeline folks. So the next question is asking by Stephanie Kramer if there's a deadline to complete the PHS employee engagement survey. So yes, there is. Apologies if we didn't make that clear through the communication earlier. We are asking that everyone complete that survey within 2 weeks, so by February 23rd. Your input is super important to us, so I hope you all will take the time to provide your feedback. And the timing is important as well, because we would like to bring the feedback back to all of you and talk a little bit about where we see priorities and plans to make improvement for the March Town Hall meeting. So getting your input by February 23rd will allow us to turn that around. The next question asks if there is a way for employees to invest in PHS. Love this question. Love the commitment and confidence I know that this comes with. And I wish I could say the answer was yes, but we do not have an employee investment option at this time. Maybe someday we'll go public, and then we will. And then anybody can invest in PHS, but at this time it's not an option. And then another question to respond to, and this is actually a carryover from the January town hall meeting that came right in at the end. So I missed responding to it. But the question asks if PHS will start to use the inclusive practice of adding pronouns to our email signatures. And I wanted to let everyone know that this is an option for anyone. PHS definitely supports this individual expression. So we're updating the email template that is in M-Files so that anyone that wishes to can add their preferred pronoun. So thank you for bringing that question forward as well. And then there's another question that asks if I have a favorite Super Bowl commercial, which assumes I watched the Super Bowl, which actually I did, but I didn't think any of the commercials were really that worthwhile. As well, I didn't think the game was that great, but that's an aside. So I'm going to turn it over to one of my other folks who are going to answer questions, and that's going to be Joe Dietline, and maybe Joe Dietline had a favorite Super Bowl commercial.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thanks, Cameo. I did. The Super Bowl, I agree, was not a good game, but the Will Ferrell commercial I thought was the best one. So the sticking it to Norway. And then if you haven't seen it, there's a rebuttal from Norway that's going around as far as, talking to Will Ferrell and hopefully not making him too mad. Check it out. I think I've got a couple of questions that I am to respond to. Is that correct, Cameo? I'll look for a nod.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Yes, sir.
So I'll go right into them. So is there a goal for how many acquisitions PHS would like to acquire over a period of time, yearly, every 5 years, et cetera? We do have for 2021, we have a goal of 2 acquisitions to be made this year. But when I talk about our growth and corporate development by way of acquisition is what I call an opportunistic avenue for us. So the groups that we're looking for, our filtering criteria is really particular. So I'll kiss a lot of frogs, we'll say, and finding the right partner is really important. So we have a goal of 2. If we find more than that, we certainly will move on them. But that's our goal for this year and expected for the years beyond 2021 too. I have another one on here. Do we expect our growth to be primarily through acquisition in 21 as we did in 2020? Or are we aiming for more of a blend between acquisition and de novo? So the 2021 plans include a whole lot of de novo work. So as far as the forecast that we have, all of that is based on organic and de novo expansion. So the Wisconsin IV, the Texas IV, Lexington and Austin expansions are all de novo. But like I said before, the acquisitions will be incremental to that. I think those are all of mine. Would you like me to hand it over to Jameson?
Right. Before you do that, we had one come through the chat just as you were talking, Joe. And I'm not sure if you want to speak to this or perhaps Dana asking if we have plans for volunteer or public service activities in 2021.
Well, since I'm on the screen and I don't know how locked down Jody has us, the answer to that is if we can. So that's, falls under the COVID umbrella. Our sharing care program is something that we're proud of, and the relationships that we have there will continue to work with each one of the locations to determine the best groups to work with in 21. And if there are opportunities to do in-person volunteering, we'll definitely take advantage of them. But I would put that in the yet to be decided as the pandemic plays out.
I just gave Dana permissions if she wanted to weigh in.
She just told me I had a great response, so we'll leave it at that.
Take it when you can get it, Joe.
That's right.
And Mandy, thanks for bringing the question forward. And I think especially as Joe describes with COVID still in play, this is going to be a really localized effort as there may be different levels of opportunity to provide for volunteer activities based on what's happening in the community. So please, as you learn of different things happening that you think fit well with the PHS mission and with our Sharing Care program, bring them forward. So thank you. And then I will turn it over to Roy. Speaking of COVID, there's a question asking if an employee has been vaccinated for COVID, are they safe to return to the office?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Roy.
So if the question had been worded, if an employee has been vaccinated for COVID, are they safer to return to the office? The short answer would be yes. So here's the reality of the situation. The current vaccines available are about 95% efficacious. They're efficacious in preventing you from dying from the disease or being hospitalized with the disease, but you can still get COVID. You're much less likely to get severe disease, but you can still get it. So the other question is, can you be an asymptomatic carrier? In other words, I've been vaccinated, I had my 2 doses of Moderna or Pfizer, or my single dose of Johnson & Johnson when that gets approved. Can I still transmit the virus? And the answer is, we don't know too much about it yet, but it's pretty clear from the 2 of the trials, the Moderna and the AstraZeneca, that the carrier rate is far, 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 far lower in vaccinated people than it is in the general population. So my take on this situation is, yes, you'll be safer. It'll be opening up businesses all around the world once more and more people get vaccinated. Right now, only about 10% of people in the United States have received at least 1 dose of a vaccine. So they're improving rapidly. About 1.5 million doses are being put into somebody's arm every day. But until we establish herd immunity, where about 70 to 85% of the general population, including your fellow employees, have been vaccinated, there's a risk that you could still get the disease and still transmit the disease. So I think we're going to still be wearing masks for probably close to a year and social distancing for a year. But I'm pretty sure things will be opening sometime and be much safer in the upcoming months.
Thank you so much, Roy. And then in the interest of time, I'll keep us moving. And we have a couple questions, actually 2 very similar questions about EBITDA. And I will ask Jamison Young, our Chief Financial Officer, to provide more definition and background about what that means.
Sure, thank you. So EBITDA it actually stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So in case anyone was dying to know that, you're welcome to share it at the dinner table with your closest quarantined companions. What it really is a reflection of the profitability of a company before really any of the accounting things that companies have to do, to keep books that are compliant with other companies. So it's really meant to be a reflection of, we provide these services, which we are paid for. We have a number of expenses that we have to operate the business: payroll, marketing expenses, equipment, supplies, etc. And the money that's left over after we collect the revenue and pay our expenses is really what EBITDA is meant to reflect. So I know it can be an intimidating finance acronym, but I assure you it's really not. Think about it as kind of the money left in your checking account after you're paid for the month and you pay your bills. That's really what EBITDA is.
Yes, and to me, the trickiest part about EBITDA is whether you're supposed to say it EBITDA or EBITDA. I think that's more of a accent issue, and I'm definitely of the EBITDA versus.
It is a tomato thing, so say it as you like.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jamison and Roy and Joe, for helping me out with the questions that have come through. I don't think there are any others that I have seen. So with that, we're right on time. And for our teams in Texas and Kentucky, you can go about taking care of kids and taking care of each other. And the Minnesota, Wisconsin teams will stay on for that localized portion of the staff meeting. So for those of you parting ways, have a great rest of the day. And then after we get through that for a few seconds, then I'll turn it back to Jamison and she'll start with our financial updates for Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Great. And Rick Mueller, I think you were going to drive the slides. So if you want to bring those up, that would be great. And just advance to slide number 2. So we wanted to just lead off the staff meeting with some finance updates that are specific to the markets in Minneapolis and Milwaukee. We're doing similar presentation of the numbers in each of our market meetings in an effort to just be transparent about kind of the critical numbers that we're looking at as a management team. So what I've included 2 slides here. One outlines our performance in 2020, and the second slide looks forward to 2021 and gives some insight into what we are budgeting for this fiscal year that we're recently in. So from a 2020 perspective, I would say from a revenue and growth perspective, things were very strong. Certainly want to thank the team for all of their efforts to make that happen. It's really the result of, the 365 days of day in, day out work that translates into this revenue growth number. And we very much appreciate and thank the team for sticking with it, especially during this year, which was a tough one to say the least. We did have total revenue of $86 million for the combined markets, which is just about 12% better than we were in 2019. So certainly very strong growth. I think the thing that's great to point out there is that, Minneapolis had growth of 10%, which is very strong growth in a market where, we've been the longest and have a great deal of the market share. So certainly great to see that. And can't go without several claps on the back to Milwaukee at 75% revenue growth, was our second highest individual city overall. So definitely appreciative of the efforts that continue to grow that Milwaukee market. So very excited to see what we'll do next year as we add the infusion line. So somewhat balancing that, good news on the right-hand side is a little bit of negative news on the, good news on the left-hand side, somewhat negative news on the right-hand side. We did have an increase in our cost of goods sold rate of about 3.6% on a year-over-year basis. And I understand that percentage might not jump off the page, but when you're talking about a company that is generating $86 million in revenue, that each percentage point adds up fairly quickly. So we did see quite a bit of pressure there. From a Minneapolis perspective, it was really focused on 2 of our kind of categories of supplies that we utilize to take care of our kiddos. And those are drugs, pharmacy costs, and then disposables. So think of the PPE that obviously we've been using at a much increased rate during 2020. So we're very focused on this as an enterprise objective in terms of kind of bringing the efforts of purchasing under a consolidated umbrella and really looking to find ways to deliver cost savings across the enterprise there. So many of you are probably already participating in initiatives with Amy Zuber, our new purchasing director, to make those things happen. We're very focused on that early in the year to try to deliver some improvement to our financials. So those 2 things, in effect, kind of offset each other. The revenue growth is offset by some increase in costs and does reflect in our EBITDA number there of about $10.5 million, which again is kind of the key number that we're looking at for this market to understand kind of our sustainable, ability to continue to grow and provide services. The next slide is reflective of our plans for 2021. We do have a plan for budgeted revenue to increase about 8.3% to just about 93.5 million. We're still looking at strong growth in the Milwaukee market of 32.4%. Some of that is going to be driven by the expansion of IV in that marketplace. But obviously, as Milwaukee continues to grow, we expect those growth rates to, kind of start to come down over time. You can't, growing at 175 to 100% a year is clearly not sustainable forever. So it's a little bit of a lower growth rate there for next year. Minneapolis at 6%. Again, there's a couple things we consider for Minneapolis. One is just, we've been in the business a long time in Minneapolis. We have a lot of the market share, and so it is really kind of looks at, more trends towards a growth of the market overall versus kind of capturing market. And then the other thing is just wanting to be cognizant of any rate pressure we might be seeing from any of our payer sources, and in particular, maybe the state of Minnesota. So we were a little bit more conservative in the growth rate there. We really have our cost of goods sold remaining relatively stable as it relates to this market in particular. A lot of the things that we're looking to implement as far as purchasing plans and tactics, they may have positive effects on Minnesota. I think what we're a little more keenly focused on this year is how we can attribute the contracts that Minnesota already has from a purchasing perspective to the other markets. And so not necessarily planning for a great deal of improvement in this market compared to the markets outside of Minneapolis and Milwaukee. And then we are projecting some fairly good growth then in that EBITDA number from about 10.4 last year to 11.3 for 2021. And I think I will turn it over to Joe. I believe he's next for Corp Development. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Jameson. So corporate development, I'm going to give a quick update here, and then I want to talk about the 2020 year in review. So Wisconsin Infusion expansion, Jameson alluded to this just a little while ago. So we are moving right along. The nurse for that expansion has been hired. Stacy Gelhar starts on February 22nd. I know there's a lot of work focused on her training plan and bringing her on board, but she will join the team here in Milwaukee. And then process and payer conversations are underway. Those are also key to our expansion, but our conversations with referral sources are getting underway and excitement is building. So the Wisconsin Infusion is on track. I put the Lexington, Austin, and Texas IV information in here as well because I know that a lot of our folks in Minneapolis and Milwaukee focus on the de novo expansions in the other markets too. So just quick updates there. Lexington is on track for July 1st. We have had some real estate visits over the last week to find a spot. This one we're calling Lexington. The location of the office is the big discussion just based on real estate scarcity and proximity to some of our referral sources. The Austin expansion, I think just earlier this week, a couple of folks were in Austin looking at real estate, so we should have our address solidified shortly. In Texas, the licensing process is a little bit more extended. So right now we're on track for July 1st, but it should be right around there depending on how the regulatory processes play out. And then finally, Texas IV, the expansion in that area is really dependent on construction progress at our Houston location. We got some updates just now in the Texas all-staff meeting, and things are moving along kind of on one side. It's two different offices that are being renovated, and we're waiting on a permit in the other side in order to get the pharmacy actually installed. So if anybody's got a relative in the permitting office in Houston, Texas, give them a call and see if they can move us right along. So that's my update for corporate development. Before we switch to IT, I want to make a quick comment. So the 2020 year in review, you guys were absolutely awesome in what you submitted. So the stories, the information, the reflection on the year, some of the happy stories. I had a wonderful time reading through them, as did Cynthia, as we put things together. Becky has come up with an awesome interaction at the end of the presentation that we're going to do, as opposed to going through the year in review. We are going to make all of those stories and bits of information available to everyone to read. I really do encourage you to take a look, because your coworkers do amazing things on a daily basis, as you know and I know, but highlighting them and really seeing some of the fun stories behind the work is just grounding and joyful. So I recommend it. We will get it out likely via email, unless Cynthia has a better idea, which typically she does. So thank you for your submissions. I really appreciate it. Rick, I think, is next.
Thank you much, Joe. I just wanted to give a quick update on a couple of the IT and really organization initiatives that are going on over the next quarter and beyond. First one I'll mention is our phone system upgrade that'll be affecting the Minneapolis and Milwaukee offices. Here we are targeting a mid-April launch. We wanted to shoot for the middle of a month due to when the phone call volume comes in. Backing up from there, we want to allow a full 30 days of what we call user acceptance testing for that system. So we anticipate that UAT, or user acceptance testing, to begin here in the next few weeks, but knowing that we would want to go live in the middle of a month, that kind of puts us in that mid-April timeframe for a successful go live. We learned a lot of lessons after implementing the system in our Kentucky and Texas locations, and really see a lot of value in providing that user-facing testing to make sure that we are 100% ready for a go live. So this will be a really nice evolution in our phone system, allow for our already geographically dispersed workforce, but also provide a lot of efficiencies in reporting for the system so that we can do better capacity planning and better customer experience, really. And obviously the big elephant in the room in terms of projects this year is going to be our EHR project initiative. The phases of the project that you see here on the screen are really tied to our MyUnity platform. MyUnity is the component of the EHR project that will handle all of our intakes, all of our scheduling, be it visit or shift-based scheduling, and then our clinical documentation. But really that patient experience really starts and flows through the MyUnity platform. It also is the biggest tentpole in the EHR project, so we are incorporating all of the other vendors into this timeframe. But really the four phases of the project start with the initiation phase, and that's what we're in right now. We're gathering a lot of details, putting together a lot of documentation, starting to chart out a lot of the processes that will need to be built into the system. And that will really extend from now, or really our kickoff a few weeks ago, up until March 28th. And we have an official kickoff with our vendor 2 weeks from tomorrow at the EHR advisory group meeting. Then after we create all that documentation, put it all together and start building the system, and actually I'll take a step back, I'll use the analogy that Rachel had, so I'm stealing it from her, she stole it from our vendor, so I think it's community property at this point in time. We're essentially trying to build a house, and the initiation phase is really the putting together of the blueprints of what we want that house to look like. So we're designing where the walls go, where we want furniture to be laid out, and really kind of roughing it in. So we don't have the house yet. We can't let you in and see what it looks like, but we're really putting all the plans together. And then during the configuration phase, which will be during April and May and into early June, that's where the house is really starting to be built. And so they'll construct everything. They'll take all of our user documentation, build it into the system. And then once everything is put together, we move into that validation phase. So this is the quality assurance timeframe for those that may have seen previous timelines. That will go from June in through July. That's where we'll get involved with a really quick feedback loop between us and all of our vendors in ensuring that our user requirements and user stories are really being implemented well into the system. And then we get into the exciting phase, which is the adoption piece. That will be in August all the way through early October. And we're taking an interesting approach that we really feel comfortable with. As I mentioned, user acceptance testing, this is a phase of this project as well, where the subject matter experts and users that are working with this system will get a chance to run some test data through it. But then we will actually take a subset of our patient population and do full production testing. So for those that have been along from the CPR Plus days, we actually did duplication of entry. What we're actually going to do in this project is take a smaller set of patients with a specific set of employees, and they will live, work, and breathe in a production system for all of our EHR platform. So that gives us about 30 days to really test the system with a subset of patients before we convert all 15,000 of our patient population into the system. So we're really excited about this project. As I mentioned in the video, two things if I could ask your help with. If you are an early adopter, if you find yourself technologically minded, we would love to have your help on this project. So speak with your leadership if you are capable of helping out. We'd love to have you on the team. And then from an IT resource request, if you do have any questions, be it a break fix or something you'd like us to consider helping out with, please start all of those processes with the help desk ticket. If it's obviously a more urgent need, we're available through the phone too, 24/7, 365. And then just holistically, super excited about this project and very, very stoked for where this will lead us as an organization throughout this fiscal year. And now I believe I'm turning it over to Becky for comprehensive care.
You are. Thank you, Rick. This is Becky Long, General Manager of Minnesota and Wisconsin, PHS. And just a welcome to all of the staff meeting first timers out there. So if you haven't ever been to an all staff meeting, welcome. We hope to have a little fun today. So to start, for me, comprehensive care, we just wanted to go through a little bit more about the program and just continuing to discuss what an opportunity it is for our staff and our families. So what is it? Comprehensive care is providing a fully comprehensive hospital at home service. It's foundational to our business and how we best serve our patients. We feel like we have an opportunity to better educate our current patients on all of the services that we have available to them. So I like to think about it of, we know what we do, but do our patients and families really know what we do as an organization as we've grown over the years? Why do we get to do this? So I would tell another family to choose PHS for the all-encompassing aspect of our service. It's not one part, it's everything. It's the equipment, the care, the medicine, and the knowledge. It's the odds and ends and the communication between each department that makes us really special. We have communications between our doctors, and as an example, we have many doctors for our patient Leo. He is on the wall near our conference rooms that we no longer use as often, or when we do use them, we're spaced out and not all together. But it is the all-encompassing aspect of PHS that we would recommend to anyone. So then there's I'm too busy and I won't remember to include it when I'm talking with our customers. So I'm too busy. We play a vital role in ensuring our families know they have options, and we're relying on the relationships that you've developed with them. With the busy lives that are a reality for our families, knowing our complete service lineup is not something that they typically just know. So oftentimes families are excited to learn about the additional services that they wouldn't otherwise be aware of without your communication as a PHS team member. And then why is management always talking about comprehensive care? So if you haven't heard yet, when patients have fragmented care, they may work with 1, 2, or 3, even more providers for services that they could get all through PHS. So that means multiple calls, explaining things over and over, and having to remember where they get certain items and keeping all that coordinated. That coordination falls solely on the parent, and they have a lot of other things that they're trying to balance in addition to their child's care. This is a way to focus on our patients and our families and rescue them from care fragmentation. So as we're talking about that, I want to just give an example of a Milwaukee success story. Our Milwaukee team, in addition to our Minneapolis team, has been very active in their comprehensive care interactions. So Rob shared one of Ruthie's that was an amazing success story that I thought I'd share with you. So we had a patient that started on service with us in Milwaukee that was initially a formula and oxygen referral, was a hospice referral actually. And throughout time, I can see a lot of notes where they were trying to consolidate the services, but for whatever reason, they just never switched over the services. So there was some coordination going back and forth between our admissions staff and a lot of work done, and we never really were able to comprehensively care for them. So they had additional enteral supplies, pulse oximeter, portable oxygen. So Ruthie made the call and made a connection with the mother, and she was thrilled to be able to get all of the services through PHS, has been completely satisfied with our service and follow through and follow up, and wanted to roll over our service. And in fact, she'd been told by the previous provider that they couldn't switch services. So I just want to say, we don't know what we don't know, and so that's why these conversations are so essential to have. So on that positive note, I'm going to hand off to Derek Hustvedt, who has a very special presentation.
Thank you. And Rick, you can advance on. Here we are. Jason Schmidt's 20 years of PHS employment. So if we can go ahead to the next slide. These are just some of the contributions that Jason has provided us at PHS. So he did spend his first 13 years as a service specialist, and part of that is lead service specialist as well. And then the last 7 years or so as dispatcher. So spending more of the time in the office, creating the routes, really working to align all the deliveries to get to out and about to our what we'll call an unusual delivery area of Minnesota, and now almost the entire state of Wisconsin as well, although Milwaukee covers a chunk of that for us now. In the past, in estimating and looking back at some of the delivery records, it looks like Jason has been involved in, and this is a conservative estimate, over 70,000 patient deliveries. And that's truly looking at the service specialist deliveries he made during those first 13 years, and that he was involved in touching and dispatching the last 7 years. That does not include all the deliveries that came to them and they had to reroute, whether that was to clinicians or same day shipped or working with the courier services. So truly a remarkable feat, and the numbers are kind of mind-boggling, as well as the miles that he had driven in the first 13 years, and then occasionally as dispatcher as well as the need arose. So almost 500,000 miles there, 400 plus for sure. So quite a bit of road time, very knowledgeable of the service area from all that driving as well as the customers. So as dispatcher, it's funny to see, even having not been to some of the homes in a number of years, Jason often gives, especially our new drivers, tips on, where to park, which entryway, what do you need to do to gain entry to an apartment building, things like that. That he still recalls patients by their names that he's seeing on deliveries. He's also very good at catching, when he doesn't see a name that he's used to seeing every Wednesday, and kind of has time to jump in and fish around to see if we're missing a delivery that should be going out. And I think the other piece is he's very passionate about this. So I know some people in the office have been part of this passion as well, and understand that maybe we see some stress caused by that at times, but it's coming from a great place. And we always remind people, Jason brings that passion and stress maybe 10 times back on himself. So he is really focused on getting the customer what they need, fixing any interruptions prior to affecting the patient. And with the increasing workloads and volume and deliveries and the growth that we're seeing that were mentioned earlier, this just compounds year after year as well. So thank you, Jason, again, for the contributions. On to the next slide. There we go. So Jason started back 20 years ago and really was the old school GPS map user, and still is able to provide direction even via phone calls as people call in from the roads, without jumping to his computer or hopping on his phone. So we like to see the maps pulled out once in a while for those of us that have been here a while. Go ahead and click on forward. Thanks. So as dispatcher, he kind of directs organized chaos. He organizes routes in the morning, oftentimes reorganizes routes in the morning, sometimes for a third or fourth time as well. And then throughout the day is finding coverage for those urgent deliveries. Sometimes we have a driver available. Sometimes, like we said, it's going to the clinicians, working with the folks in warehouse as far as shipping options or courier options. So that is truly a remarkable feat on a daily basis. Knowledge beyond his role, again, just reviewing those delivery tickets before they're even handed off to a driver has been just a great help to have that resource and the knowledge of identifying if a tank's missing or even a rack's missing, it should go with a tank, things that he's used to seeing together, or catching that maybe we had identified a piece of equipment needed to be programmed and it hadn't been checked. So again, working most of the morning up until 10:30 just to get everything lined up and make sure it's not impacting the customer is certainly appreciated. Next slide. So we're kind of jumping back and forth between Jason's work life and his personal life. So in this case, his work life of dispatching and all the daily activities and kind of organizing that mass chaos also helped him into moving into youth hockey. So you can see there's at least 2 Schmitz in this picture. I've been told the black hat and black jacket with the back to us is actually Jason, but his daughter is next to him, and he is actively participating as a youth hockey coach these days as well. Next slide. And then kind of the reverse. So Jason's personal life, loves cars, like really loves cars, really loves cars a lot. Unhealthy level, perhaps. Jason's been with us 20 years. I think I can almost count 20 cars that he's been through. More in the last maybe 5 or 10 years, but I think that is an actual picture of Jason's Camaro that he had. I think he's currently jumps between a Porsche and a Ford pickup truck, but there were also let's see, Mercedes, couple BMWs, a Mustang, and I believe the one I first recall him driving was a Subaru Impreza. I don't even talk about that one as much, but we'll work with it. We also, just for note, when he does go out and do deliveries, we have not allowed him to do that in the Porsche. So if he does, he'll have to park a mile or so away and hike in for that delivery. But that love, that personal knowledge of vehicles and evaluation also has played into his role as fleet coordinator. He and I work really hard together to manage the Minneapolis and Milwaukee vehicles. But he's really involved in maintenance and repair costs. He certainly understands what's appropriate for both fees as well as pieces going in and out. So he works with the repair shops and the maintenance shops on just about every vehicle that we're running into, and has been very valuable in arguing back and forth with them on prices, things like that. We'll go with haggling, maybe not arguing just yet. But vehicle assignments, reassignments, making sure we're keeping the right people in the right vehicles and trying to balance out the mileage that's going on to the vehicles so we can manage those costs. Was also, and it still is, involved with our gas and maintenance cards on the leased vehicles that are out there. And then as we're transitioning, we've been moving from leased vehicles into actually purchasing vehicles. So he is spending a little more of his time now negotiating and finding the best deal on new vehicles with the dealerships in town. And that's been going really well. And we're seeing some cost reduction there. And we'll certainly see it in the length of service as we look at different vehicles and the cost per mile and their duration that they're usable for us. And that kind of rolls into the cost evaluation and just the overall general vehicle consultant. There are people calling from out in the road when things either go wrong, break down, or have a question on how to get their windows back up. Jason served as that consultant as well. I would say that he would like to be talking more about if we have the proper race wheels on or suspension, or if there's a chip, we can get a couple more horsepower plugged into our vehicles, but we haven't quite gone that route just yet. Next slide. And Jason's family. So Laura, his wife, and his daughter, Becca. And then I believe Laura's actually the fisher person in the family, but he was holding it for her at least. So we appreciate that. They do live out on Forest Lake, so they do get quite a bit of boating and fishing in as well. But family is important. So again, this is kind of mirroring work and work life and personal life, because the next slide is truly a thank you for being part of the PHS family and really has been for quite some time. This is a photo from, I think, well over 10 years ago out at Jason's house that we at a barbecue at one point. But we'll get back to those days hopefully after COVID soon, and then we can have a proper 20-year celebration. But thank you again, Jason. I do appreciate the fact that I missed an opportunity to add some things to this presentation since Jason was muted, but we'll work on that next time. Thank you. And I believe we're transitioning maybe to the Kahoot survey piece. And by the way, Jason, everybody's clapping. I probably should have added an audio piece to this last slide, but thank you again.
Okay. Rick, I think we can go to the next slide. Or Emma can take control of the screen now.
Okay, I'm
Emma
gonna
can
try and
continue to share.
share my. All right, you guys just let me know if you can see my screen.
We can.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, everybody. My name is Billy Parrott. I'm in patient services here in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
And I'm Emma Holthusen. I work in admissions in the Minneapolis location. And we made this Kahoot of some fun facts, trying to touch on each department of the Milwaukee and Minneapolis locations, just some fun facts over 2020. As some of you have figured out, if you go to this www.kahoot.it, it'll have you plug in this game pin. Feel free to add your name. Don't feel like you have to play if you don't want to. Just a fun activity for us to all learn a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're unfamiliar with this game, essentially you're going to play it on your cell phone. So you'll go on your cell phone to kahoot.it, type in that game pin, as Emma said already, put in your name, and then we're going to just go ahead and we'll say these questions out to you guys, and then if you know the answer, you're going to respond to the color that is on your phone to the answer that's on the computer screen. And you do not have to play. Looks like we got a lot of players already. We're really pretty excited about this. So keep going, and we will wait until we think everybody's in.
Yes, and something also to note is how the game works is obviously if you guess the right answer, you will be on the leaderboard, but it's also timed. So each question allows 20 seconds, but if you answer it quicker than others, your score will be higher. So it's kind of a race to who can ever answer first.
That's correct. And then we're playing for first, second, and third place. Becky's got some awesome prizes for everybody. And for those who are not playing, we'll be having a big drawing after this as well.
Yeah, so with that, I don't know if Jason is still on. We were going to have Jason do the drawing. So how we have it is HR has sent a list of names, and each employee name has a number associated with them. So we will have Jason pick a number between 1 and 400. If any of us are selected, we'll have him reselect again, and we'll just vet it out with our accounting service of Billy, Emma, Becky, and Marlene to make sure that it's fair.
Thank you, Becky. So it looks like the numbers of people joining, not joining are kind of slowing down here. So we're going to give it another 30 seconds. Again, kahoot.it, enter that game pin at the top of Emma's screen there. And then your name if you want to play. If you don't worry about it. Again, like Becky said, we'll have a drawing for everybody as well. Playing for first, second, third. Good luck, everybody.
All right, let's get started.
The PHS 2020 Kahoot Trivia. Question 1.
How many delivery tickets did patient services create in 2020? All right, the correct answer was 62,139 tickets.
Got Lisa.
Nice job.
Question 2. How many new high-tech kiddos were taken home in 2020 for Minneapolis St. Paul? Correct answer of 45 high-tech kiddos taken home in 2020.
Hey, Emma, do you have the pin possibly? There's a couple questions on the chat for the pin for the Kahoot game.
Oh,
At the bottom right-hand side of the screen.
Thank you.
Summer in the lead with 1827. Nice job.
all right. How many intakes did admissions complete in 2020? All right, it was a whopping 5,676 intakes. Nice job, guys.
Lydia pulling ahead. In what month did our HCN have the highest number of field nurses serving our kiddos? September. Lydia still in the lead, followed by Dana and Allison.
SNV nurses made how many patient visits in 2020? $2,750 visits.
That is a lot.
Mm-hmm. Nice job, Lydia.
Question 6, our registered dietitians completed how many NST assessments in 2020? The answer of 800 assessments in 2020. Rick is coming up there.
In biomed, how many techs are trained on the Trilogy 100 ventilator? We tried to find a picture of a ventilator, but the Kahoot only had so many free images, and I know that is definitely not a ventilator. 6 techs are trained on the Trilogy 100.
Dana in the lead, followed by Joe and Judy. Care integrator Brenda Stromberg helped over how many UHC PHS patients remotely? 35 to 39 patients remotely. Nice job, Brenda.
Dana's still in the lead. Milwaukee office high-tech patient count grew by what % between fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20? Milwaukee office high-tech patient count grew by 47%.
Question 10, how many prior auths were completed in 2020? $15,168 prior authorizations. Bree is in the lead.
How many documents did the medical documentation team scan in 2020, excuse me? $87,397.
Service specialists were routed and logged how many miles in 2020?
I hope they get this right.
179,853 miles and smiles. Bree still in the lead, followed by Rick and Dana.
How many babies were born into the PHS family in 2020? $30 babies. That is a lot.
That is a lot of babies. Rick now in the lead. How many calls did the front desk in Minneapolis-St. Paul take in 2020? $83,500 calls for the front desk. In the words of Linda, awesome.
Dana back on top. How many total line items from DTs were shipped out from the warehouse in 2020? $363,762 line items.
Our view count on our education how-to videos increased how many views in 2020? it increased 4.49 million views in 2020. Nice job.
How many years did it take to get a Health Partners contract for mental health services at PHS? Eight years. Slowly but surely.
And just a time check, it's 4 o'clock now, so if people need to jump off, we understand that you'll still be in the drawing.
Thank you, Becky. After our PHS family grew in 2020, so what is now the total square footage of all of our PHS locations combined? $141,400 square feet.
Interpreter services have been extended to how many sites, providing a better experience for our non-English speaking families? All of our sites now offer interpreter services. That is awesome.
Yes, it is. Rick still in first, followed by Dana and Neil. Administration managed how many M-file documents in 2020? $3,624.
Minneapolis and Milwaukee Billing Department processed how many line items in calendar year 2020? $398,125 line items.
How many new systems were implemented in finance in 2020? $56.
4.
4.
56 people got it right.
There are 4 new systems, but 56 would be too many.
It felt like 56 for the folks.
Amen to that.
Rick still in the lead.
Billy, this is all you.
Cameo senders, cattle calved blank cute calves in 2020.
If you can say that 10 times fast, you get extra points.
That's right. A whopping 270 cute calves, Cameo. That's a lot of calves.
Our IV nurses spent a total of how many hours in patient homes in 2020? 7,844 hours.
Way to go, Ivy. Lynn's coming up, followed by Neil and Rick. How many more pharmacy therapy days were there in 2020 versus 2019? $8,819 days. Lynn takes the lead over Rick.
And last but not least, did you even know Cameo had a cattle ranch?
I sure did.
Nice. Yes, she does.
Well done, everybody. Third place, Rick. Nice job. Second place, Lydia. And our winner today for the 2020 Kahoot Trivia, Lynn R. Very nice, everyone. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you. We apologize this went a little late, but congratulations to everybody. Thank you for playing today. And Becky, we'll get back to you.
Yes, we'll follow up with you if you were one of these winners, and then we'll announce the drawing winner on the hub, as well as the slides that Cynthia prepared will also be on the hub. Thank you, everybody.